I'm your host, Jason Tartick, and welcome to Trading Secrets. We talk all things money on this podcast, and we're teaching all the stuff we just weren't taught in the classroom. Nothing supports this show more than liking, commenting, and of course, subscribing. Welcome back to another episode of Trading Secrets. Today, we are joined by Love is Blind's newest successful love story and fan favorites, Johnny McIntyre and Amy Cortes. Johnny and Amy walked away from season 6 of Netflix hit reality dating show as the only couple happily married. Now, after just surpassing their 1-year wedding anniversary on the show, Johnny and Amy are continuing to grow into their lives together as a married couple. During their time on the show, Johnny and Amy did not hold back on the tough conversations around physical intimacy and financial stability, two very important topics for any new couple, especially with Trading Secrets. So, how have things progressed over their first year together? What have they done to better themselves as a couple? What struggles have they run into? What are their goals, both personally and professionally moving forward? We are going to touch on it all. Johnny and Amy, thank you so much for being on Trading Secrets.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
We're
thank you,
glad to
Jason.
be here.
And happy 1 year.
Thank you.
I mean,
Thank
that's
you. It's
you,
flown.
when you look back at the last year, do you feel like it's flown, or you're just like, what in the world just happened? And I asked that question because I think about the first year I got it off reality TV.
Yeah.
I go on a dating show, I come in third place, and I'm just like, what's happening?
Yeah.
You guys got married.
Yeah.
Like, how does the last year, how's it been?
It's been wild. It's
Yeah.
been kind of like a whirlwind of different things coming because there's been so much different change going on, but it's all like very positive. But it's like
Adapting. to it.
we're basically it's like, were we really planning for something like this?
Yeah.
And then how do we really make sure that we're capitalizing on it and making sure that we're going to be basically the best versions of ourselves while doing it too?
Yeah, for sure.
exactly.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
go chronologically back to once upon a time. Love is
Yeah.
Blind finds you. Okay, both you guys are extremely educated. You're doing well in your careers,
Mhm.
and then Love is Blind comes your way. First and foremost, how did they find you? We'll start with you, Johnny.
So for me, it was kind of odd. They found me via LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
So yes,
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
Wow.
Very random.
That's insane.
I feel like it's impossible to know if you even are in a relationship when you're on LinkedIn, but they messaged me. I thought it was like a recruiter. So I messaged back and I was like, you know what? Why not? Like, I'm free in the next 20 minutes. Let's hop on a quick call.
Okay.
And we do. And I'm like, oh, I thought this was like kind of a scam or like maybe not real, but like it was very real. And I didn't really know kind of what to expect from it. So in my previous dating life before this, like it was working out good, but I was having trouble just kind of getting a little bit deeper.
Okay.
So that's why I thought Love is Blind was really going to help me show, was just getting deeper with like those relationships.
Because professionally, you're IT tech sales, right? That's your
Exactly.
background, right?
Yeah.
So they're reaching out to you, and you're thinking, all right, you know what? I'll just give this a shot. It'll help me expose myself to something different.
Exactly.
Okay, we're gonna come to you soon in a
Yeah,
second,
yeah.
Amy. But obviously, it's a business podcast, so
Mhm.
you're working full time. You tell your employer you're gonna go on a dating show.
Yeah.
Was there any risk of losing your job then? Did you lose your job? Did you come back to it? What did it look like?
So initially it was very positive because I had limited PTO. They said, hey, as long as you're hitting your number, we can, you can take off roughly the 3 weeks that
Mhm.
you're going to be completely, no phone, no connection to the outside world, and you can come back and have your job right back afterwards. Then as we shifted more towards actually filming and kind of like when it was like a little bit closer to actually start Love is Blind, they basically said, hey, you should probably quit like the company and then reapply for a job after it's all done.
Interesting.
So it was basically kind of like a little game internally of, do I really want to take this opportunity? Do I want to move forward with this? And if I do, what's kind of the next step for me professionally? Because it's not going to be aired for another year. So how am I going to basically pay my bills? How am I going to, get around? And it was very just like, I don't know, kind of like an internal battle I was like facing myself.
Of course.
So I went back to my HR department. We were able to get a unpaid leave of absence while I was going to be on the show,
Sure.
which worked out perfectly.
Okay. So then after the show, and we'll get into the current state later, because I got to tease it a little bit. But right now, you film, and then after the show, you go back to work.
Exactly.
Because the other thing too, which is a crazier risk than, of course, like other reality TV, is you guys don't actually know if your season will be picked up, right?
Mhm.
Or how long, right? Once you
Exactly.
finish filming, it might be 3 years. It
Mhm.
might be picked
Yeah.
up. They might not even showcase you, even though you got married. So there's obviously a
Right.
lot of risk in it as you're planning your career. So,
Yeah.
okay, you take a leave of absence, you go back to your career.
Yeah.
Before I go to you, Amy,
Mhm.
we talk financial transparency here, just for educational purposes. Anybody that's looking at IT tech sales,
Mhm.
what around, like, how does the structure work of compensation?
So compensation for IT, basically like kind of SaaS sales, is going to be you get a base salary,
Mhm.
and then normally your on target earnings is going to be roughly double that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And
So
let me take a shot at base salary. Base salary is going to be somewhere in the 75 to 90 range.
probably, yeah. Just
Okay.
depending on like your market, if you're going to be the small to mid size, the
Okay.
mid-size market, or like enterprise sales.
And that depends into what company size you're selling into.
Exactly.
Correct. Okay.
Mhm.
Got it. Good to know. And you can do up to 2 times a base on compensation and commission.
Yes. Two
Okay.
times is going to be the on target earnings, but then you
Wow.
have people who are earning a lot more than that because they just exceed their commission plans.
Okay.
And a lot of times it's going to be uncapped commissions. So
Okay.
some people in my company were making probably 3-4 times the amount too.
So you know some people in your company in IT sales are making like 7 figures.
Exactly.
Wow.
So,
Interesting.
and that's normally in other companies too. That's going to be more focused towards like cybersecurity or like
Okay.
cloud-based solutions.
Yep.
But in mine, it was more so maybe like 3 times like their base, or like maybe even 4 times their base at certain times.
Okay, good to know. That's very educational.
Mhm.
IT tech sales. If you're interested in making a transition, sounds like you can make a couple
Yeah.
bucks there. All right,
That's
Amy,
right.
we're going to you. Master's degree, University of South Carolina, focus
Yeah,
in
okay.
international business. You got that bachelor's degree at University of North Carolina at Charlotte, major in marketing, and you're an e-commerce retail specialist for the past 3 years. You tell them you're going on Love is Blind.
Yeah.
What happens with the job?
So that's actually a funny story because I had applied to be a part of the show 6 months before filming, but there's just kind of like, you
What do you
don't
wait?
know.
Tell me, what do you mean by that?
So before filming, I
Yeah.
had applied in September of 2022. So my friends
Oh.
told me about the opportunity and I applied myself. Instead of being
Mhm.
scouted,
Yeah.
I actually applied for it. However, it took so long and you don't know like what life is going to look like. So I had planned trips and stuff. And so I was supposed to be gone for the duration of filming. So I wasn't going to do the show. A trip got canceled. And that was kind of what opened the gateways to me even partaking on the show. And what I did immediately was call my manager. And I was like, hey, sobbing, like, expect me at work next week because I'm not going to France anymore. And like, this is all happening. And then I'm also being told at the same time that I got chosen for the show, but I had told them no because I was going to go on the trip and I was going to go to Japan. And like, I was just like rambling. And she was like, okay, Amy, like, let's take a step back.
Yeah.
And I mean, this was literally probably like a week and a half to 2 weeks right before filming. So, I'm just like telling this to her last minute, not expecting that it's going to even happen because to take 3 weeks off, granted, my company did have unlimited PTO and it was phenomenal. Like that was my favorite aspect of the job.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But you have to ask with it like in time, especially if it's 3 weeks, you have to make sure that you have that coverage. So I was just kind of ranting to her because I saw my manager as a friend as well and a mentor. And she was like, okay, let's take a step back. Let's see what we can do so that you can take on this opportunity. I'm going to talk to HR. And I was like, at the same time, I was like super nervous because I was like, what am I putting myself into?
Of
Like, this
course.
is so crazy. But no, like HR was able to make it happen for me.
Okay.
And they were so
Mhm.
supportive. My job was absolutely supportive. And I mean, I absolutely loved my role,
Oh,
but
Okay,
yeah.
so you're working, your
Yeah.
company's supportive, and similar to Johnny, you finish, you're
Yeah.
married, and you go right back to work,
Yeah.
Mhm.
just waiting to see what happens and when it gets aired. How
Essentially,
long
yeah.
after you start working again? So you
Mhm.
go through this crazy experience, you're married, you're going back to work. How long after you get married from
Mhm.
filming do you find out that the show will air this spring?
Well, I think first things first too is that so basically the 3 weeks we had during filming was really going to be like no phone, no outside connection.
Of course.
As soon as we're done those 3 weeks, though, we were still filming, but Amy right away had to go back to her job.
Yeah.
So her schedule was basically 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. of working the corporate job, then 5 p.m. to like close to like 11 or 12 o'clock at midnight filming for the show.
Mm-hmm.
And that was basically 3 days out of like the week and then all weekends too.
Yeah. And the thing is I actually like while filming, I had gotten promoted and I didn't know. So I
Mhm.
come
My
back
gosh.
with
Yes.
a new fiance, living in a new place,
And
with
new
a new
job
role and
title.
more
Yes.
responsibilities, which was a huge honor, but it was something that I wasn't expecting. So it was a lot to kind of acclimate to that. And
Yeah.
then I think we found out maybe like a couple months before, maybe like November, December.
Okay.
So maybe like 2 to 3 months before that the show was coming out in February.
Yeah.
Okay, pretty wild.
Yeah.
All right,
Mhm.
let's get into this. Retail, e-commerce. Someone's listening to that. They're like, what does that
Yeah.
even mean? What does it mean? And in an area like that, what can you make?
Yeah. So within my role, what we essentially did was consulting in the e-commerce space.
Okay.
I personally focus on Amazon, but in my company, there were so many opportunities to be a part of other e-commerce platforms like Target, Instacart, etc.
Hmm.
But the leader of all is
Of
Amazon. So
course.
there's more focus on that. But essentially kind of doing all areas of business. So
Mm.
marketing, operations, like literally making sure that we are marketing our brands to the best that they can be and reaching that their
Interesting.
goals. So that was basically what we did. In the beginning, just starting off as an e-commerce specialist,
Yeah.
I was at 56.
Okay.
Once I got promoted to senior e-commerce, I was at 73K.
Okay.
So
And for someone that's listening to this that has never been in that industry or
mhm.
space, would you recommend a career change in that space?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I feel like it encompassed everything that I had studied.
Mhm.
I was also I had brands that were in Mexico and Canada. So it gave me that sense of what I studied was international business. So it
Sure.
gave me that practice that I was finally applying what I had learned.
Yeah.
So I mean, I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
It definitely can be a lot. It's an agency after all.
Yeah.
So if you are a hard worker, if you're a perfectionist, you're gonna find yourself working a little bit
Oh,
overtime,
yeah.
as he witnessed with
Mhm.
me.
Yep.
And so it's just like, what do you value? If you want to get that practice, if you want to get that introduction into that lifestyle, and
Yeah.
then maybe focus on and narrow down later on in your career path to, just one role within one company, then
Right.
that's a great place to start off because you get all these areas of business.
That's awesome. It's so
Yeah.
cool. And obviously that's an industry that's growing at such a rapid
Mhm.
pace. I was actually just at a Walgreens charity event. And so it was obviously sponsored by Walgreens and all the vendors were there and they were talking about, I was like, how's the state of the business there?
Yeah.
They dropped a fact that blew me away. It's that 78% of American households in the entire country live within 2 miles of a Walgreens. And they said though that the business is taking a toll right now. And I was shocked. I'm like, economy's up. I get the prices are higher than
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
a grocery store, but I'm shocked. And they just said foot traffic is getting killed. Like
Mhm.
everyone is just going to Amazon. They're just
Mhm.
Yeah.
ordering online. So it's an industry that is growing and
Oh, for
expanding, and even
sure.
retail centers that are as accessible as Walgreens within 2 miles of 78% of the country are still
Mhm.
feeling it. All right, let's get to Love is Blind. Talk to me about this. 8 days. Yeah, I know you filmed for 3 weeks, but 8 days you get married. You two have been very open. I even commented on one of your skits you did about the finances, which,
Yeah.
by the way, that skit was hilarious. But you've been very open about like the personal, professional, and financial aspects
Mhm.
of your
Mhm.
relationship.
Yeah.
The biggest question I have is after 8 days, do you have enough time to even talk about your finances? Are you considering a prenup? Are you even given the chance to have those discussions?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or do you just have to possibly, if you want to, do a postnup because it all happens so fast? No one probably in the world other than this show can relate to that speed, but they can relate to trying to have tough conversations
Mhm.
that are sometimes, you know, pressed and the cans being kicked. So I'm curious, what was your experience there?
Yeah. So as far as the timeline goes, it is scary because it's very fast.
Yeah.
Luckily in the pods though, it's kind of staggered. So like day one, you're actually dating all the women for I think it was about maybe like 15
15
minutes
minutes.
each.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then that's 15 of them. Then the next day you're only seeing 8 of them, and it goes to maybe like half-hour long dates. So the next day it's only maybe like 6 of them, and it's an hour-long date each. So each day you're getting more and more time with them. So towards like the last couple days, well, we actually decided that we were going to be, just exclusive
Exclusively.
on day 5.
Yeah.
And we were probably at maybe like 3-hour long dates at this point.
Yeah.
So for day 5, day 6, day 7, we were having those like really deep conversations about, okay, well, let's talk about finances. Let's talk about, really kind of crazy hypotheticals. Like
Yeah.
what happens if, something happens with your dad and we have
Yeah.
to basically be the caretakers for her family.
Mhm.
Mm.
How are we going to balance that? And just like different things too entirely.
Yeah, I feel like we were getting super deep, and
Mhm.
obviously there's just not enough time, but I feel like judging the character and asking the right questions to judge the character will help you
Mhm.
assess like how everything else is going to kind of play out.
Yeah.
Obviously, we talked about finances and we talked about
Mhm.
kids and like hypotheticals and stuff like that, but I feel like coming into this experiment, if like we're both ready, like we're obviously in the experiment because we're ready for that next phase in
Yeah.
our life.
Mhm.
But to like really test that is all about asking like the right questions and getting to know that person in depth. Like, for example, I had asked him, like, what have you done to better yourself as a man? Like, do you read self-help books? Because
Yeah.
I felt like I was doing my work to
Sure.
get to
Mhm.
where I am and becoming the woman that I am. And I wanted my partner to match me. So I wanted to see how he answered that, because if he was gonna be like,
Yeah,
like
of
I'm
course.
just like, you
Yeah.
know, you're
Yeah.
cut respectfully. But like, granted, that was not the case. And he was very like, he surprised me very much. And like how he went about those answers. Talked about how he meditated, how he journaled, how he did read self-help books. He listed, you know, some out. And it was just like, I could relate to him so much at that level. And I feel like that taught me that, okay, he's open-minded. He wants to work on himself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's dedicated. Like, it told me like certain qualities that would kind of play out into harder conversations. So
Yeah.
when, you know, finances come to play, I feel like, you know, we might not meet in
Yeah.
the same place at like in the beginning, but we
Mhm.
could potentially meet in the middle because there's that open-mindedness there.
Totally. I
Exactly.
mean, it's such a hard place to step into,
Yeah.
especially when you're in an experiment like
Literally.
this.
And you don't even see each other too. And you're talking about these like
Yeah.
in-depth conversations. So it's like we're really trying to figure out like what the foundation is going to be like for the rest of our lives in this
Yeah.
relationship.
Literally.
And that's, I think, what was really the biggest thing in those like 8 days in the pods was,
Yeah.
is it going to be enough, like this foundation of, you know, talking, communicating, being open to really, you know, hearing what she's saying and trying to find a good middle ground to meet for compromise in certain situations. Can we do that in these 8 days? And
Yeah.
if so, okay, when we actually see each other in person and we actually start living together and start working together, how is it all going to really just transpire?
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I've
Mhm.
talked to a lot of couples that have come off the show. I still have never heard one that got a prenup. Did the conversation even come up regarding prenup?
No. Did
I
we?
think it came up later on because we
Yeah.
didn't really know exactly what to do around
Yeah.
like that whole situation. And my
Yeah.
sister and brother-in-law are both corporate lawyers,
Oh,
and they're just
interesting.
saying that, hey, you guys should really probably think about this
Yeah.
because it's not just basically me versus Amy or Amy versus Johnny.
No.
It's basically how are we going to really just kind of figure things out when it comes to the state versus us.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
exactly what I'm pro prenup because one, it forces you to
Yeah.
step in the conversation.
Mhm.
And two, you're exactly right, right? It's the state laws that once you get married, y'all have a prenup. It's just the
Yeah.
state laws. Do you want to customize them?
Yeah.
But I just have to imagine how could you have that conversation in
Especially.
that time period?
Yeah,
It's like
no,
it feels like
just
it's like
so
almost impossible
fast-paced.
Yeah.
to go to that level. But
Mhm.
but that's, I mean, the whole thing's fascinating. The show
Yeah.
obviously crushed it this season. There was 907 million minutes of viewing time in the US. 78% came from that demo that every show is trying to capture, which is 18 to 49. And obviously that's had a big impact on both of your lives.
Mhm.
You know, one of the things that I wanted to ask you guys about is now today, when you think about professional lives, like we talked about where you guys were, the
Mm.
show blows up, you get social media following, you're married, you're happily married. Where do you go from here in this crazy world? What has the professional world and navigation looked like from the day the season finished airing to now?
So it's really weird because, and Amy, I guess you want to go first with kind of like the way you decide to do kind of like
Yeah.
corporate life afterwards.
Yeah. So essentially, right when everything was about to come out,
Mhm.
I was fighting for my life. Literally, like I was going through all these like physical challenges. Like I had like the worst chest pain. And then I was like going through other things. Like it was awful. And I think it was really the stress that I was dealing with.
After
Yeah.
the show
Yeah.
when I was on, just because you're not, I don't know if you felt this, you're just
Yeah.
not used to that attention,
No,
those
not at all.
eyeballs.
It's so
And
much.
and I actually just talked to Joey from The Bachelor about this too. There's so many physical things in your body that
Yeah.
change from it. I dealt with a
Mhm.
lot of those
Yeah.
things too.
But that was before the show. I was like
Before it
already,
aired?
yeah,
Yeah.
no, before
Oh,
it
shit.
aired
Like
because
before
of
it
my
was
job.
bad.
And like I loved my job.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, I don't even want to put it on my job fully. It was just that there were so many new things happening in my life, like changing all at once. Like I went from like super single to very much married, and then a promotion
Like
at the
that.
same time. And it's just like so many
It's
changes in my
crazy.
life. And I would say that I have awful anxiety. I feel like I've gotten better from it. I feel like that's one thing
Mhm.
I've, learned since the show came out is how to kind of better myself in that area. But anyways, I feel like I was struggling a lot at the end of last year, beginning of this year. And then with the show coming out, I was like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do? Like, how, like, I feel like I'm going to just combust right now. Like, I need to take a breather. But at the same time, I'm such a workaholic.
Yeah.
But Johnny was like, you should really take a step back. Like, I got us, like, while the show comes out, and then maybe like you can go back into that space. And I'm just like, honestly, we're like at a good spot. Why not? I like thought long and hard about it because I was very back and forth. I was very passionate about what I did, but like at the same time, I knew that it could have affected me while balancing everything else.
Yeah.
So I made the decision to leave. I would have done a leave of absence, but unfortunately they didn't offer that at that moment. But they were very open to me reapplying if that, ever came to be. So I left my corporate role. And so have kind of been stepping into the influencing life since.
Good
and
for
honestly, it's fun.
Yeah,
that's really good.
I'll pass
And you
it
kind of
over
a
to
knack
you.
for that too.
Before we go into that, Johnny,
Yeah.
talk to me, Amy, about what does it look like now? Like, is it where you expected it to be? Do you see the future in continuing to put all your energy towards it? If we fast forward to that decision, which was when, like March, February, we're now in June. Talk to me a little bit about like where it stands today and what the vision is.
Yeah. So transparently, I didn't expect the show to like even boom as it did. I didn't think that there would be the opportunities that have come from it. I was just kind of like, I'll leave and then I'll go back.
Sure.
But if there are opportunities that come, then I'll tap into it and see what there is in that space. I'd like to say I'm a very creative person. I did study marketing and all that. So I do love the side of influencing and really tapping into that. At the same time, this is still kind of a new space. Like, I don't want to be like, I'm going to be doing this forever. Like, it would be cool. But I also want to be realistic, especially when there are, in the future, when there are new responsibilities that come in. It's just like, I don't know how that will look like.
Okay.
I'm just kind of more focused in the present. But at the same time, I know that I have a great education under my belt. I have great work experience. So that if I end up doing corporate life again, I can definitely tap into that, or maybe even try both. So it's just kind of like a question mark. But right now, enjoying the ride.
You got that insurance plan too.
Exactly.
Talk to me about this though. Are you on like the trajectory, or have you earned more in this space than you could in your previous space?
Yes. So I definitely have earned more in this space than I have in the previous space. So that also kind of makes it like,
of course,
and at the same time, there's more flexibility. I mean, I love to travel.
Yes.
It's one of the main reasons why I studied what I did. And so now getting to do it with the person that I love and having the flexibility to tend to my family. I mean, I have, other than my parents, my grandma and her two sisters that are, elderly, live with my parents. And, being able to support my family and being there for them is so huge to me. So there's a lot of like flexibility and like more income that comes from it. So
exactly. Johnny, I'm coming to you in a second. One thing I want to ask you though is, I don't want to make this assumption, but just looking at your resume and your master's and just your whole track, it's very like blueprint. It's very traditional, just like mine was, right? As a result of that, I find that sometimes when you take a shot like you're taking, there's probably a lot of outside noise from very afar and possibly in your inner circle. I'm only saying that because I dealt with it. Have you dealt with that at all in your inner circle, outside noise saying, what the hell are you doing? You got your master's, 2 great schools. Why are you doing this? Like, have you dealt with that? And if so, how have you overcome it?
I feel like more so from like my grandma, for example. She's very involved. So, but she's more traditional. I feel like my dad, now that he sees where I am, how happy I am, the fact that Johnny and I have such a great relationship, which is like the most important thing of all, and that, we're doing well right now, he's so supportive of it. He was all about, getting the education and following that traditional path. But I think he sees my happiness and he weighs that more. And I feel like my grandma just doesn't understand what influencing is or what that looks like. So she's just like, I don't understand. But I think she's also following that same path as my dad, where it's like, she sees that I'm happy and that's all that matters. But other than that, like, everybody around me, like my close friends and the rest of my family, have been super supportive in terms of, following what I feel like is best for me intuitively. But I feel like if anybody holds me back, it's myself, because
Yeah.
I have told Johnny time and time again, like, what if I can do both? Like, there's a tie, because I feel like I did study so much to kind of go back to that corporate lifestyle.
Interesting.
Like, it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's a toxic relationship, because my job wasn't bad, but it's just kind of like you see like what better things you could do, and you still kind of have that tie pulling you back. So
Totally.
I feel like that's what I kind of struggle with, but I don't know. I just want to do it all. I'm a
My only
workaholic.
take on that would be, if you do both, which of course you could do both. You
Yeah.
can do whatever you want to do. I think both, like individually, each of those paths will suffer a little bit,
Yeah.
right? So as opposed to being able to give 100% to one and
Exactly.
accelerating, you'll be giving, you'll have to give 75% of what Amy could do. And so maybe that's an answer though. Maybe that works best for you. You got to figure that out.
Yeah.
Last question I got for you, and then I'm coming to you, Johnny, is in the small startup space, they call it burn rate, right? Like how much cash do you have until your company goes out of business? Like how many months can you support the operations when you think about your path in this space? Do you have an idea just about going back? Like, is it like, okay, I'm going to go back to corporate in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? Like, what does that burn rate look for you?
Yeah, we actually have had that conversation. I feel like as of right now, we'll probably be good for the rest of the year. I feel like it's something that we'll consistently like reevaluate just to make sure that we're staying on top of and like having that communication. But I think right now we're just going to continue enjoying our marriage. We got married in such a fast-paced process.
Yep.
And so we just kind of want to do anything and everything and really enjoy it. And so I feel like that does give us that flexibility in doing so. But I feel like it's something that we might, reconsider next year and see like where we're standing, if we need to consider that as an option, and if we can keep doing what we're doing now. So,
okay, there's what the future path looks like, at least till the end of this year, maybe a full year, maybe it'll be 10 years. We'll have to do a State of the Union. All right, Johnny, you're in IT sales. You talked about the money of it. You get married, you go on the show. Today, we fast forward. The show is aired. You've had some success, some great success on social media. What does it look like today? What does the professional career outlook look like today? Are you still in IT sales?
So no. So actually, Amy left when the show was about to air. I decided I wanted to try to really kind of make it work and see if I can do that, still work my normal job and still trying to be an influencer and really create content. Honestly, that's just like what you said, giving 75. It was very much that my attention wasn't on one full thing. I was always thinking about work when I was trying to create content. And then my focus was always on creating content when I was at work, and it just wasn't really working out too well.
Yeah.
So I had a conversation with like my bosses, with my managers, like everybody else, and we came to a decision that, probably should take like a step back from this.
Yeah.
So I ended up closing out the rest of like my like larger deals I had for like that quarter, and I stepped away pretty recently. So it was about probably 3 weeks in total.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. So this is recent news here.
Exactly.
Yeah. So like in my situation, I was kind of very similar. Like when the corporate world and the social media world come together, it can create especially like when you're selling it to your level, C-level executives and stuff, it could create a lot of touch points, let's say.
Yeah.
And so this was, for me, it was back in 2019. So it was even before there was more understanding of the space. And they pretty much, they're just like ultimatum. Like you're done with that, or you're here and you're done with that. Was it somewhat similar to that scenario?
It was pretty similar. It got to the point where, so my role was basically more of like a hybrid role. So I was in the office roughly 2 days, working from home 3 days. And I feel like I could have kind of managed everything, but then travel came into play. Kind of like what I was mentioning before we started filming this. We had a lot of different trips planned, from going to Puerto Rico to going to my brother's graduation to going to LA to film certain things. And I got to the point when they said, hey, you can do this, but you can't do this. Even though it was, I was hitting my number, I was doing well in my job, they wanted me to be more so kind of in the office opposed to doing my job outside of it.
Let me ask you this. Do you think it was control because they were focused on performance, or do you think there was a little bit of control because of envy of what you were doing?
I really can't say for sure.
Yeah, I know I could say with certainty. It was 100% envy. It was like the more the opportunities came, they didn't put any expectations on the other people the way they were putting them on me. And I know it was it had to do with a little bit of like, we're going to try and control this situation. I don't know. That was my thing, but yeah. All right.
Yeah, impossible to say for sure. You know, other people are thinking their mind if they don't actually say it. But
Of course. All right.
really, who knows?
All right. Give me this. You leave your job. You've been doing it your whole life. A lot of change. You're now 3 weeks into it.
Yeah.
Give me one professional high and professional low since making that decision.
So one professional high has just been the work-life balance, I would say.
Okay.
It's very easy to do things kind of on your own schedule when you're just going to be content creating. So you're allowed to take trips, you're allowed to visit family, you're allowed to work on Saturdays and Sundays, opposed to Monday at 9 a.m. you're logged in for a 9 a.m. meeting. So it's a lot more flexibility with that, and that's something that I really like. And ultimately, I don't know if I'm going to be, and this might be a question for later on too, but ultimately I'd love to be able to go back to some sort of selling capacity.
Okay.
But at the same point, this lifestyle I'm seeing right now is something that I would love to have as like a parent when I'm older. So I can actually be there for my kids. If the kids have a soccer game or a baseball game or wrestling match, I can actually go there. I can be a coach while still being able to provide for my family financially because I am still working in some capacity.
Yep, exactly.
So that's, I think, is probably the biggest high for me from stepping away and actually being able to do content creation. The low is more so kind of getting out of that mindset of I need to be busy 24/7. I feel like I'm still kind of in that mindset. And I feel like when it comes to like the corporate world, you have to be doing, what you're doing 24/7. You have to be plugged in, grinding right away. And you can have a little more of a balance of maybe taking things for yourself and maybe taking a second to really kind of gather your thoughts before going into the next thing.
Interesting. So you think when you're in that corporate grind, it was a lot of like check boxing. And now that you're in this new space, it's like sometimes you don't feel as accomplished because you're not check boxing. But in reality, you're actually giving yourself more space to like think with intention as opposed to just like checking those corporate boxes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of like, you get the anxiety that, you could be doing more, especially in sales. It's like you could be making a couple extra calls. You could be doing something else that goes above and beyond to set yourself apart from somebody else.
Yep.
But if you're not doing that, is it really going to be that negative in this space?
Okay.
Because in sales, it might be, but in this space, it might not necessarily, or it might just not be necessary.
Okay. We talked about Amy and what your thought process was with the burn rate. Is yours similar to you? Are you on the same page with you'll give it a shot till the end of the year for sure and maybe a full year, or is there a different timetable for you?
So right now, it's definitely going to be give it till the end of the year.
Okay.
So December is going to be when we really have that hard decision of what do we want to move forward? Do we want to continue this? Do we want to maybe change and shift focuses? Do I might want to switch to another career path too? Whether it be going back into software sales, going into IT sales, going into maybe some more flexible, like even real estate too.
Yep.
Because I do like selling. I do like, meeting people and working with them. But at the same point, I do like this flexibility to have right now. So it might be a different capacity. But at least until the end of the year, we do want to give this a shot and really just bet on ourselves and see how far we can take this.
Okay.
And then from there, really just kind of figure out what we're going to do next.
Cool. This is a question for, I know, my listening audience, because I know they're going to ask. They'll say, okay, it's amazing. I love what they're doing. I'm excited about it. I'm inspired by it. What about benefits? You guys had all these benefits with big corporate. How do you guys have benefits today? What does it look like? What'd you do?
So I think it was when the show first came out, we actually started working with our talent company Rewired. I did have a call with you right away.
Yeah.
And it was really going to be focused around benefits as far as, hey, how do we actually get health insurance? How do we get vision, dental?
I got to be honest. I swear, obviously we have talked before. You were at Rewired. There's a lot of conversations. Like I forgot about that until I just brought that up. Swear to God. Now I'm it's like all coming back to me. Cause that was like that was a long time ago.
It was really the first conversation
4 or 5 months ago. I forgot about that. That was the first, cause you reached out to Megan about that. And that was, I swear, like with everything in my body,
just a little
I totally forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you end up doing?
So we ended up going basically 2 different paths. So I don't know. I went with the kind of the route that you went down originally. So I had the United Healthcare
Golden plan. Yeah.
So I have that one. I actually just got enrolled in it about a week ago.
Nice.
So haven't had to use it yet, which is really great.
Cool.
But knock on wood, exactly.
You're good.
But that's where I really started doing with that. And then that's really gonna be healthcare focus. As far as retirement, we've met with a bunch of like financial planners around that to really help out with what should we continue to contribute while we're still paying our bills, while we're still trying to really figure out what commission or just what we're going to be making in this space is in like as a whole.
Yeah.
So we meet with them to discuss like the retirement benefits and the retirement planning. And then also just different people like just kind of like a CPA or like a just to kind of set up like everything as far as like a business expense goes.
Okay, cool. I
Yeah.
love it. So you went
Yeah.
with the golden rule. Guys, with the recap, I'll break down all the different insurance options if you decide to become self-employed. Amy, I'm curious though. You said it's different. What did you end up doing?
Yeah, so I ended up going with Blue Cross, Blue
Nice.
Shield Advantage, just
Mhm.
because I have health condition.
Okay.
I stay struggling.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's more of a healthy boy, and he
Yeah.
barely goes
Yeah.
to the doctor. But I needed a little bit I needed something more that could offer a little bit more. So that's kind of the route I went on.
So
A little more
talk to me.
pricey,
I know they're
but-
going to ask. Money Mafia, you already said it. Pricier. Give me how much you pay per month for your insurances.
So right now I think I'm paying about 200
Yep.
for
Sounds right.
everything. So it's
Yep.
going to be for medical, for
Yep.
vision, for dental, and
Correct.
that's really going to be it right now.
Yep, that is
Yeah.
exactly. I think I was paying with the golden rule, I was paying like 175 or so.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I'm currently paying after Amy. Amy, what are you paying?
So mine is at, I believe, 372.
Yeah,
something
wow.
like that.
Well,
So
this
I
is
think
so bang on.
yeah, 340 for
Yep.
self-care, and then
Yep.
30 for dental.
So I'll tell you guys my story in the recap, but I was on the golden rule. I then I got kicked out of the golden rule. I'll tell the full story in the recap, but essentially I did a proactive health exam for preventative that just one of my friend's fathers had a heart scare. And I said, what? And he's 74, he was worked in healthcare. So was one thing you would have done differently, because he had a quadruple bypass. Like he should have died. It was 4 arteries are blocked.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is the thing I would have done. I would have got this scan. I go to get that scan. I had a little bit of a hiccup in it. And then Golden Rule kicked me out. So I had to go to Affordable Care Act because I got kicked out of Golden Rule. And now I pay $375 too. But I'll tell you all the specifics in the recap. So more to come on that. But I know people are fascinated with that. Now that we know everywhere you're at professionally, financially, and where you're at, this is what we got to talk about. It's a big thing that people listen, and you guys have talked about it on your social media and you've talked about it on TV. What's next in a relationship based on what you guys have talked about, possibly creating a family. But with family and children, there becomes a lot of things that you want to achieve personally and financially. Big discussion topics for each of you. And let's just go back to Love is Blind. There was, on TV, there was you guys talking about like the whole idea of even being intimate because you wanted to make sure you were personally and professionally and financially aligned. Let's first start there. Talk to me about that thought process when you were holding off on intimacy because you wanted to make sure the foundation was there before even taking a chance at that. I think that also connects to preparing professionally and financially as well as you think about kids.
Yeah. I feel like that thought process kind of like the whole conversation initiated because we were on like opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of our life experiences and like where we kind of stood at that moment. So when we talked about it and like we were just like, what if something happens? Like we were just trying to like cover all the bases. I feel like we are very much overthinkers
and
so
planners,
we want to,
which is so opposite from the north. Most people come on the show, it's total opposite.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
So
I think the big thing that really got to like me though is the fact that it was just very fast paced.
Yeah.
And
it's true.
And
like, we don't need another
like we expedited the dating process, expediting the, being in a fiance like kind of, I don't know, space. And then we got married right away.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to do was just expedite the next process and just start
Here comes
popping out
again.
kids. It's like, that is just very, very fast. I'm just not comfortable right there.
And I mean, neither was I. And I feel like we both align on our timeline on when we wanted to have kids, how many kids, like we aligned on that.
Yeah.
But we talked about like the what if, and like me not being on birth control did raise that risk. So it was just an important conversation to have and be cautious around.
Yeah. But I think more so like that conversation really sparked that, how are we going to start having these actual difficult conversations in the future?
Yeah.
And kind of going back to like what I said before, like leaving that foundation of, when we're just starting to talk, how are we going to be having these conversations? Is it going to be very much, no, I'm right, you're wrong, like that's it? Or is it going to be, hey, let's actually figure out why you're thinking this way or why I'm thinking this way?
Yeah.
And kind of dive deeper into, okay, well, growing up, this was the expectation versus this was the expectation.
Sure.
This led us to thinking this way. So as a couple, we can, again, meet in the middle in a certain kind of, middle ground.
Yeah, a very, very, very mature approach. I mean, when I wrote my book, Talk Money to Me, one of the big stats was 3/4 of relationships deal with money tension issues, and they're material tension issues. And over half of them, have decreased intimacy because of money issues. So it's interesting that you guys kind of reverse engineered it in the fact like, hey, let's proceed with caution to make sure everything is aligned first. That is extremely mature. It's very intelligent, and it's obviously it works for both you two. So let me ask you this then: when you have these financial conversations, because you guys are doing them at such a fast speed compared to all Americans statistically, where has the biggest disconnect come when because it's hard to step in these, because when you step into them, you're going to disagree. That's why it's hard to step into them. Where has been like the biggest disconnect with the financial discussions?
I was a disconnect. No.
Is it spending? Is it earning? Is it like the idea? Like, what is it though specifically that you've identified?
I feel like initially it was just more so, I mean, he studied finance. That was like his major, like that's his thing, which I absolutely loved because I feel like that wasn't my strong suit. You know, I had graduated grad school and then just was starting out my career and my life. So it was just a lot of new territory for me. You know, I had my savings account, but you know, I didn't know about like high yields. I didn't know about investing. Like I hadn't like really dove into that. So I feel like my thing was like I like to live more in the present, and like I didn't really think much about the future, but I know that there's an importance in the future, but I feel like I gave more importance to the present, whereas he was more so focused in the future and not so focused in the present. So I feel like that's where we were kind of very much opposite, but we did meet in the middle to create that balance. And I feel like, you know, that's something that we did have consistent conversations about. And I feel like to this day, it has helped us in both ways. I feel like I've learned so much from him and like from the resources that we've seeked, but he's also like been able to live more in the present and like have fun and all that.
And really enjoy myself.
So I think I'm hearing, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm hearing you're maybe more of a spender and you're more of a saver. Is that correct?
Sure.
So then just getting that on the same playing field. I always say like we associate spenders immediately with negative connotation or savers with great connotation. And there's pluses and minuses to both. You nailed one of them. Savers sometimes have a tough time like enjoying the resources that they've earned because they're worried about it, right? That's typically where I am. But spenders also have a ton of great qualities. They can see opportunities and capture them. They probably have higher risk tolerance, which means that they'll be able to probably earn more on riskier things that they do with their money. So like there's it doesn't mean one's right or wrong. I think it's finding the compromise and going and figuring that out. I love it though.
And I feel like it's also like growing up, we were definitely both rooted like different financial kind of like beliefs.
Yeah.
As far as like with me, it was very much every penny you make, save at least a little bit of it. Versus like other aspects might be, hey, like I have this now, like I want to spend on it right now too.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, even with my family, my dad was also very much of a huge saver, but also like, you know, being that provider in the family. And so I feel like we both came from lower economic, you know, backgrounds. And I feel like with that, it can either go either way. And I feel like that's exactly what happened. So with him, he kind of adapted that belief system. And I also, I didn't. I just was like, I want to live my life because I was so sheltered. And I was like, I'm going to spend all this and do all this. But, you know, I felt like us, you know, being together really helped us learn so much in so many different aspects and kind of meet in the middle.
Okay, cool. Talk to me about tactics. Have there any specific tactics that you've implemented? Have you created a joint account? Do you review financials once a month? Do you like tactically do anything that has been very helpful or that's worked?
So the big thing is that we did start doing a more like a joint like kind of business account.
Cool.
So as far as content creation goes, everything is kind of funneled into that account.
That's awesome.
That's basically how we know kind of what we're making, what we have for, you know, just the month or like, you know, up to this point right now. From there, we have kind of like our, you know, business expenses, and then also like our personal expenses. So we take a certain amount each month towards like our personal expenses. And that's, hey, honestly, get whatever you want to get. I could care less about exactly what you're picking out or what you're choosing, but you get whatever you want to get, treat yourself to that one. And I'll do the exact same thing on my end too.
That's brilliant. So you guys have the business pool, the income goes in, and then from the income, you'll decide how much you could do with it personally. And you just do whatever the hell you want to do your thing.
But also not to that extent. Like we also will put a good amount of money in savings.
And you'll save it too.
Like,
I think it's, you know what else I love too, is it's it's not, you're eliminating this whole shame and guilt of where you're spending your money. It's more
Yeah.
like, hey, let's make it together. And then what we have, and you want to do, if your priority with spending this is X, A, B, and C, go do that. Like that doesn't mean it's my priority, but it makes you happy. So I think that's a great system.
Yeah. I feel like growing up too, I did see like other families that were very much like the husband's kind of a hawk on the wife and like, oh, why'd you buy this? Why'd you buy that? Or vice versa.
Or vice versa. Yeah.
So it's like, let's not even do that.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you really
God
want
bless.
this, then you do
yeah.
it.
It's a,
Like-
well, I can't stand when a buddy of mine is like, she's got 1,500 Amazon packages that show up. Hey, asshole, I just saw you bet $2,000 on a game, okay? And you lost it. So the point is, it doesn't mean that one's right or wrong. Well, it does based on the amount of stuff. But if that's what makes her happy and that's her number one priority, let her do that. And if gambling's your form of entertainment, your number one, whatever it might be, and then, the other areas where it's lower on the priority list, assuming you can afford it all, cut there. But like, I think the judging, weaponizing, shaming,
It shouldn't
it's
be
just,
around.
it just creates resentment.
Exactly.
And then we know with the money and love game, the resentment decreases intimacy, decreases connection,
feel
that
like
leads to like
that's
divorce.
the key word. And I feel like that's something that we talk about all the time is like, how can we eliminate resentment buildup in the future?
Yeah.
And it's by like having open and honest conversations, not letting things get like swept under the rug.
Yeah.
And just like that, like in terms of finances, like allowing us to be us as individuals, because my personality is I like the good things of life.
Yeah,
And
we are very similar in a lot of ways, but we're also very different in a lot of ways too. And I don't want to say, oh no, like your way's right or wrong.
Yeah.
I want you to be your own person.
Yeah.
We are together because we are good together, but we're only good together because I am Johnny and she is Amy.
Yeah.
If we were just lumped together, we probably wouldn't be very good together.
Yeah. You guys are going to have to write a love and money book. I mean, you got joint accounts, you got a spending plan, you talk about it, you know it, you understand each other's differences. It's quite impressive. All right, I want to go to this transition. Let's talk a little bit about Netflix. We love Netflix. We love their shows. We love their talent. I'm curious though with The Bachelor, if you can, I don't know if you can share this or not. I don't think it's anything that you couldn't share, but with The Bachelor, sometimes people come on and they'll pay for your ring or they'll help with the wedding or things like that. Has there been anything like that? Like, does Netflix help out with the rings or the wedding planning or anything like that when it comes to finances and your personal lives now that you're married because of the show? What's it look like?
So production was very good with basically kind of giving us all the resources that we needed to essentially get married. So the cost for the ring, that was covered. They were able to basically provide the ring to us too, which is really, really nice.
That's
awesome. The wedding also covered too. Wedding planning, they were able to just basically kind of get what our thoughts were on this, like what kind of style we wanted, and they were able to basically do that for us.
Yeah,
so,
they kind of just made it into reality because I feel like we were so busy with balancing everything out that we didn't really give as much time as I would have wanted. And thank God it came out like as it did. But like, I feel like we didn't give it too much thought as to like what a wedding, like I hadn't even thought about like how to plan a wedding before that. So it was just like so much new stuff for us all at once. But I feel like we just kind of talked about what we liked, the aesthetic that we liked, and they brought it into fruition and they did an incredible job. So
I love, you know what? Because there's so many people. I mean, listen, you're given an opportunity through a show, and then it creates so much opportunity that you might be able to leave your jobs and create a different direction. And then so many individuals leave the shows and then try and point the finger at the shows and beat them up. And it's so great to hear like that they help you with all that financially, planning wise, the time commitment, etc. That is that's awesome. All right, go Netflix, go Love Is Blind. Do you see a future in TV, Netflix, reality TV? What does it look like? Give me odds here. We talk numbers here. Give me the percentage that we might see on another reality show in some capacity.
I'd say a probably solid 20%.
20%. Okay, what kind of show would it be if you want?
If it was, it has to be some sort of like a challenge type of show.
Well, it certainly would be a dating show.
Definitely not a dating show. I feel like we are check that box off. We're very successfully. So,
oh god,
but have to be something like that. But the way that I see it is that it was very fun. It was very cool. But I feel like you leave a lot up to chance, and I don't know. I kind of like to be in control of certain things. So that's why it's very kind of like lower on the spectrum right now. As far as if put out content, like I want to be able to see the content before it comes out.
Okay. Yeah. You've rolled the dice enough.
Yes.
The gambles are done.
Extremely lucky. Like it worked out absolutely perfectly for us. So we want to kind of come out as winners, opposed to like going back in and then see what happens afterwards.
I know you guys have talked a lot about buying a house and real estate. Definitely staying in Charlotte
for the foreseeable future.
Okay. At least for the next like 3 years. I feel like we'll we'll see
Yeah.
once time
Amy's
passes,
family is
but-
still located here.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
family is very spread out, are very spread out across like Maine, New Hampshire, now Texas as well. So
Yeah.
it's basically we have family here. Why
Yeah.
not stick by it? Because if not, it's okay. We go to either somewhere where we're going to be completely isolated,
Yep.
or by half of my family when it could be Amy's whole family.
Yeah.
You guys are making it tough to find holes. I'm like, where are the holes? All right, well, I want your
Not the
honesty here. I'm
holes.
going to say a couple
All right.
numbers, and I want you to just tell me if you know the numbers about each other. Okay,
All
just be honest though. Do you know one another's credit score? Around?
I literally, it's funny because I just checked my credit.
I
score
found
this
a
did?
hole.
morning.
You
I
did?
found a
Okay.
hole. What is it? Give me a roundabout.
Wait, do you want me to guess first?
Yeah, guess
or-
first,
Yeah,
guess
I
first.
even forgot.
Usually
I
I'll
already
have like
forgot.
the pad and paper. We can
Yeah.
write it down, but I just came from the flight. So
Okay,
take a
no
shot.
worries, you're
Just
good.
this is the honesty policy.
I want to say 720, 715 ish, somewhere in that kind of range.
I think it was like 740.
740. Oh,
Okay,
okay.
a little
All
higher,
right.
not a big deal.
Let's go.
All
I
right,
don't
take a
even-
shot at Johnny's.
God, I didn't see. This is something that we need
I
to talk
know, this
about.
was-
I found a hole, baby. I did my job after an hour.
I think I'm gonna guess maybe like 758.
58. Wow, exact number too. No, it took a hit.
Oh, no.
So I'm sitting at about 730 right now.
Okay.
Okay, you know what's
Yeah.
really good? It's last time we did this on the show. Credit Karma came in and did sponsor.
Oh,
or
God,
is
who's
working
coming?
on sponsorship. So
way.
yeah, they got a deal from that. So while we're on it, if
Mm.
you don't mind sharing, what just because someone could learn from it, what happened that created a hit on their credit?
So basically it was, we did a lot of travel
I was gonna
and
say
some of it was
traveling.
covered, but others of it wasn't. So
Yeah.
basically it all went on the credit card. That went up a lot. And now in the process of basically paying it down.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
All right,
really
there you go. Let me ask you this: do you know one another's around annual spend?
Oh, I don't know.
If you had to guess, or monthly spend, if you had to guess.
Monthly spend might be a little bit easier.
Yeah, monthly. You spend a lot.
Ah.
I'm like,
Because I'm
All
buying,
right,
I'm buying you stuff.
Let's play the game. Let's play the game. What do you think? Give it. And again, this is approximation. They're not getting technical. Approximation. How much a month you think?
I would say maybe like close to 6K.
What do you say?
I'd say it's pretty accurate.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's go, Amy. Oh no, you gotta
Or,
guess
yeah.
Amy's.
I was gonna say for Amy, it was probably gonna be around maybe 5 to 6.
No.
Less or more?
I feel like less.
Less.
Yeah. I would say maybe 3.
Good for. Wait, and you said
Okay.
you were the spender. This is some bullshit here.
Listen, he's
Yeah,
taking
when it comes
good
to
care of me.
dinners, it's oh, here you go. Here, use my card. We're not gonna use Amy's right now, and that
Yeah.
kind of adds up a little
Well, you're
bit.
gonna have to start using that joint business
Yeah,
card.
no.
It's called business dinner, right?
That's exactly what it is now.
I love it. All right. Well, we did find at least 1 or 2 holes financially because it seems like everything has been perfect. Let's end with this one because it's a fun one.
Yeah.
What do you think? There's one thing that Johnny overspends on, and unless Johnny goes broke, he's going to continue to overspend on it. What do you think the answer is? Then Johnny, let's go to what the answer is.
That's a good question. Because sometimes he does get impulsive. and
What
just
is
buy like
he
things for the
over-
house, but it's
what
also
is
like
he-
nothing crazy.
What is he overspend on?
I want to say dinners, but that's because it's me. It's not. I'm the problem.
Dinners. What do you overspend on? Unless you're broke, you're going to keep spending on it. What's the answer?
Just food in general.
Food?
Like
Yeah.
I love going to dinners. I
Yeah.
love just like having a full fridge.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
like
Food in
what
general.
are the options I can have tonight? Okay, we can cook this tonight. We
Yeah.
can do that tonight. We can do whatever. Like
would
I
say.
respect
that's what makes
that.
it easier.
Are you
So
good cook?
definitely food. So my little sister,
Yeah.
ironically enough, my little sister posted a Snapchat that I took probably about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I was trying to cook rice,
Okay.
and it turned into just like a weight. So I was able to like pick the
He
rice
like a
was
up.
paperweight.
No. It was like the 3-pound like
It
weight of
just
just
got
rice that
stuck
was solid.
together.
And like you can like drop it on the counter. It didn't move. It didn't spread apart.
Oh
It didn't
my-
break. It was just
A
solid.
brick. How much butter
Yes.
did you put in there?
I guess not enough.
Not
Or way
enough
too much.
or way too much. Are you a good cook?
I'd like to think I am,
Yes.
baby.
Oh, okay.
Her grandma and her mom and her aunts taught her very well.
Oh,
So as
that's
far as Puerto
amazing.
Rican food goes, she's really good at it.
No, it's so funny because the whole like that was just white rice, and I remember at the beginning of our relationship, I
It was
made
bad.
just
It
white.
was
I
bad.
mean, I'm like, it's the most basic thing,
Yeah,
and he
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
"Wow, this rice is like the best I've ever had."
What'd you put in this? Like
He's like, all
And
right,
I
I
was
do.
just
Let's
like,
go to the
it's
aisle.
just white
I'm in.
rice.
Sold. All right, last one we'll do. Got to go to Amy. What's one thing you think she overspends on? Unless she's completely broke, she'll keep spending on it. What do you think it is?
Oh, skincare. 100% skincare.
Oh, actually, yeah.
Skincare, a million %.
What were you gonna say it was?
I was gonna say traveling.
Traveling.
I mean,
Because even like, you know, like we'll do our couples things, but I love going out with the girls too. So and like if they're ready to go somewhere, here's my card. I'm putting my money down. But
you gotta have that girl time.
Yeah.
I love it.
I would say, traveling and skincare, like
I think skincare, because I feel like every day I come back, there's always like either an Ulta bag or a Sephora bag, and like it's always there. And it's like, oh, what's this? This is a different size bag than yesterday. It's like this one's like this big, this one's like this big. Like it's always something different.
But I put him on.
There you go. Oh, you're on the scene. Yeah, both you guys, great skin. So you know what? There's benefits to that spend. All right. Well, let's wrap with your trading secret. Can't learn it from a professor. Can't learn it from a TikTok or YouTube tutorial. Only from your life experience. It could be a financial tip, professional tip, or personal tip. Who wants to give their trading secret first?
You'll probably go first.
All right, Johnny, give us a trading secret.
I feel like the biggest thing is like when you're feeling comfortable, that's probably the best time to make a move and do something different. Because it's very easy to stay in the same place year over year and just stay in that same mindset. So it's best to take a chance on yourself and do something that might be out of the box, because you really never know how well it's going to work out.
I love that. I love it. And also with tough, I think a lot of what you've done too is stepped into tough conversations. And I think it's tough to do that. But when you do step into those, it could be so preventative of tough situations down the road, which is something you've clearly done. All right, Amy, well, one trading secret. What can you leave us with?
It's so cliche, but I would say follow your intuition and your gut and just trust where it'll guide you. I feel like I'm very happy where I am right now. I'm glad I took that risk. But it's one of those things that it could change in the future and my intuition might lead me somewhere else. So it just kind of all comes down to like serendipity and like what comes across your path and what to take on. So
absolutely. And I think anyone can relate to questioning your intuition because of other people's perspective or judgment, especially on social media, but in all areas. And so trusting that is huge, and it's everything. All right. Well, if people want to find more of Amy and Johnny, where can they find everything you guys got going on?
Cool. Yeah, Instagram.
Instagram's really the main one. So we can
give us your tags.
So you can follow me at Johnny__McIntyre, because apparently there is a Johnny_McIntyre already.
Yeah, don't screw that up. Two underscores. Don't go give that guy a follow. Okay. And are you on TikTok as well?
TikTok as well. Cool. I'm not very present on TikTok, but I'm trying to start making a lot more content on TikTok.
And we know if you want to get a hold of Johnny, just go to his LinkedIn. That's where he will definitely respond.
Respond back to anything. So
that's where love is blind.
Found a job or a show. If you're the 20%, who knows?
Go to Love is Blind.
Snapchat.
Oh, and Snapchat too. Yeah.
Snapchat too.
We gotta figure out how to use Snapchat.
Yeah, I had it and I deleted it.
There's a losing so far.
We had one person come on the show who at 18 in 5 weeks made over $1 million on Snapchat.
That's crazy.
18 years old. That's crazy. Where can people find you, Amy?
So Instagram is Amy Tiffany with 1 Y, and then TikTok is Amy Tiffany with 2 Ys.
Ooh, you guys are keeping people guessing with these handles. I love it. We'll give Amy and Johnny a follow. We're going to have to do a follow-up in a year from now to see if you're back in the corporate grind or still doing your entrepreneurial thing. We're excited to see. But thank you for trading all the secrets and coming on today.
Thank you so much, Jason. I appreciate it.